Hello and welcome to the BeeRPad. We have a very special show for you today with a very special guest, the incomparable Mr. Paul Semel. So I guess you're making
Paul.
This is our first three-way episode.
Oh, baby, I'm not getting the wet spot.
And with me today, as always, is the phenomenal Marcus Beer.
2-0, 2-0. Suck it, Newcastle, and your Saudi
Congrats.
owners. Yeah, some good space today. My sporting team did very well over the weekend for once.
Yeah.
It's been a rough start to the year for both my main sporting teams, Liverpool and Wales. We've been shite. But anyway, yes. Hurrah!
You're supposed to intro me, man.
Paul.
Yeah, Paul.
That
Yes.
is Raymond.
Yes. And if you don't know Paul, if you read any men's magazines in the 90s and 2000s,
He's the one who made the pages stick together.
he wrote and edited the video game section. You might know him from such magazines as Bikini, FHM, and my personal favorite, Gene Simmons Tongue. That was
This
a real
man
magazine.
He's a fucking legend. Paul is an absolute legend. It's been a privilege to work with him over the years. I mean, you two are the salt and pepper of the 90s and 2000s gaming generation. You cannot have one without the other. And I think it's great that we have Paul here, and long may it continue. I've suggested several times we have a three-way with Paul, and apparently he's always been a little too busy. But today, on a Sunday, apparently he's ready.
I didn't know you were talking about the show. I thought you were talking about another kind of three-way. So
No. There's no other kind. I'm a married man.
Hey, look who it is. Our excellent friend, Mark Griffiths, all the way from England.
And I hope you enjoyed that game yesterday, Mark.
Congrats. Great win.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So, gents, today we're going to be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, the third film in the Ant-Man series, the first film in MCU Phase 5. But I wanted to get a little bit of background of what you thought of the first two Ant-Man movies to give the audience some perspective of how we were going into it. So, Marcus, what did you think of the first two Ant-Man movies?
So, I'll be honest, going into the first one, I really didn't know what to expect. Much like a lot of people, I like Paul Rudd, didn't know if he could carry off a movie by himself, because obviously he'd been like he'd been like in rom-coms, and he was in the final season of Friends. And he wasn't like the Paul Rudd we know today. He was the Paul Rudd from the 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up. He was the good-looking, funny guy off to the side. I mean, pretty much me. So I didn't know if he could carry it. I was actually concerned going in, because obviously the original Ant-Man was scheduled to be directed by Edgar Wright.
Right.
Who did Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, the Cornetto trilogy in general. Baby Driver is another one. So, yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Are they going to take all the whimsy and fun out of this? And I went in with low expectations, and I was very surprised. I thought the cast was on point, liked the story. Michael Douglas was great as Hank Pym. Any issues I had with them using Scott Lang over Hank Pym absolutely went away. And I think it's better, really, that Hank Pym is a character that is soon to die off, I reckon, because if you read the books, him and Janet Van Dyne have a very, very horrible relationship.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how they've tackled it in this one. So, yeah, really liked the first one. Enjoyed the second one. I love the comedy. Obviously, high point in both movies was Michael Pena. And we need to talk about his involvement, or lack thereof, in the third film.
Yes.
But yes, I like the second one. Giant Man, Lawrence Fishburne was in. Ghost was introduced. Hannah John Kamen. I thought I've enjoyed the first two. They had a lot of they told the story. It clipped along at a great rate, and it had a lot of decent comic touches. along with the really good action and fun with the sizing. So there you go.
Yeah, I feel very similarly to you. I like that it was tonally very different from the other Marvel movies. It had the humor that you mentioned. I like that they were essentially heist films. And I love that the setting of San Francisco was used so effectively. I lived there for 6 years. One of the Michael Pena stories, they're walking by a block in the neighborhood I lived in. And I'm like, oh, I know that wine store. That's Ruby's. So I loved how the setting of San Francisco was almost its own character. And I like that there were heist films that weren't necessarily about, saving the entire universe. So the scale was different, which is appropriate for an Ant-Man movie. Now, Paul, you have a different perspective than both of us, if I remember correctly. You're not a fan of the Michael Pena character and didn't like the first two movies as much as we did.
No, I definitely didn't like them as much as you did, although I did like them. I thought, and for many of the same reasons that you guys did, I wasn't as worried about the Edgar Wright thing because I knew the director they brought in, Peyton Reed, he had done I always want to call it Cheer Fever because that's what it was called originally, but the Bring It On.
Bring It On.
Oh, yeah.
The first one, which, is not a great movie, but it's entertaining.
Sure it is.
I see it like fitting in with this. For me, as I've said to Raymond before, I don't think Marcus, I've ever talked to you about this. For me, Marvel stuff falls into one of three categories: great, good, and the Incredible Hulk. And this to me was sort of in the middle of the good section, with the first two Thor movies and the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Gotcha.
But that said, Paul Rudd, always entertaining. I always love Michael Douglas. The guy who played the FBI agent in the second one, whose name I can't remember.
Randall Park.
Randall Park was
the wonderful Randall Park.
Yes.
Who once played Kim Jong-il.
That's right.
In that weird ass movie.
The Interview. That's right.
Yeah, The Interview. Thank you. Yeah, I did like them, but they were not like the peak of Marvel by any stretch of the imagination for me.
Sure. We have a question from the gallery. How spoilery is your discussion for Quantumania going to be? Because I'm probably going to watch it tomorrow.
The Butler did it. And he's a she.
And Snape killed Dumbledore. Ruined it for you. We usually, when I do this with Marcus, we usually don't get too spoilery for stuff right away. So as much as we can, we're going to talk in broad strokes, Mark. So I don't want to ruin things.
I think, to be honest with you, when we get to we've got sort of like two more talking points. But the next one, I think, is we're going to do a succinct review of the game, of the movie, rather, a very succinct review. That'll be spoiler free. And I think it's probably best then that anybody who hasn't seen it make like a tree and bark, because we're going to get into some spoilery discussions. I mean, that's just the way it is. So we'll do I think we should just do that synopsis, the tweet size review that you suggested, Ray, and after that, anybody who tunes in is going to get it somewhat spoiled, because we need to go in depth on this. And everything that we will discuss is everything that's already out there on the internet. And if you're avoiding that, you want to avoid this. Fair?
But you should keep streaming it and just put us on mute in the background.
Well, I'm going to act out the bit when Ant-Man tells Kang he's his father. Oh, sorry, spoiler.
And Carlos has a comment. Randall does a great job as the Rock's sidekick in Young Rock. Yes, he does.
And he was also in Always Be My Maybe with Ali Wong. Superb rom-com. Yeah. And shows off his musical chops. The boy can rap. The boy has some musical.
Fresh Off the Boat, too.
That's right.
Yes, I think he was the dad in that. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Bounce back like a tennis ball.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Now we're getting into the really weird shit. Okay.
So let's do, as Marcus mentioned, let's do our short tweet-sized reviews of Ant-Man. I will start first. little, yellow, different. Oh wait, that's the Nuprin commercial. It is very different from the first two. Still fun, but not as much fun.
Who's next? Me.
Next.
No, Paul.
Oh, okay.
What? Paul.
A big adventure for Marvel's littlest hero.
It's actually good. I could see like Paul Semel, EW.
Okay. Great first act, great third act, middle act lags like fuckery.
Yeah.
Beautiful special effects. Quantum Zone looks amazing. And that's all you get.
And as Marcus mentioned, now we're gonna get into territory which we will
The
brush against
spoiler
some
zone.
spoilers.
We need a new graphic. The spoiler zone. So
Or could get Kenny
hang on.
Loggins. He can sing "Highway to the Spoiler Zone" for us.
Or get John
so-
Benjamin to say it.
5,
Spoiler
4,
zone.
3, 2, 1. We are in the spoiler zone.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp, this is the last. Oh, sorry, Quantumania rather. This is spoiler territory from beyond, from now on in. You've had your warnings. Now, walk off.
Where would you play in the current wave of Marvel film? Where would you play?
Where would you put? Where would you place? I think it is. I think his autocorrect kicked in.
Well, this is technically a new wave, so this is the first in Phase 5.
I think he's meaning post Endgame.
Post pandemic, maybe.
Post pan.
Or since pandemic. I think unfortunately it's a very low bar, and that fits in.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is bottom 2 along with Eternals.
Oh, it's since the pandemic.
Yeah, it was Eternals during the pandemic.
I mean, let's face it, the pandemic was our snap.
Yeah,
I mean, it really was our snap.
Paul disappeared for 2 years.
Yeah,
I don't know where he went.
I'd place it probably the same level as Shang-Chi.
Oh, that hurts.
And Wakanda Forever. So not quite as Eternals bad, because I have a soft spot for Eternals.
So do I. I mean, and I'll touch upon that later. I mean, they both tried really different things. And I kind of appreciated what Eternals tried to do more, even though perhaps
it felt more grown up, didn't it?
Yeah,
more grown up.
Yeah, but let's stay positive. Let's stay in the positive tip, and let's talk about things that we liked about the movie. Paul, kick us off, please.
Well, like I said, I thought it was an entertaining story. Like you guys said, it is very different from the other Ant-Man movies. In tone, and I can understand people not liking it because of that, but I did like it. It also sort of struck me in a weird way as being very Rick and Morty, like of all the crazy characters. Like you have that one guy, like the blobby guy who like gets all excited when he gets holes, and like there was Broccoli guy who obviously deserves his own like 8-episode TV show. I thought the cast, as always, was really, really good. It seems like it's going to be like, it doesn't seem like it yet, but it seems like it's going to be a pivotal movie at some point. Like we're going to realize that a lot of things that came after it were sort of born in this one. And that's kind of obvious because like the second Avengers movie is called the Kang Dynasty, but still
Yes.
I think there's going to be other things that come out of this as well.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the world I thought was interesting. The story was interesting. MODOK was interesting. Yeah. Although it was interesting to bring him back and in that way.
Yeah.
Carlos mentions the living building.
Living buildings.
That to me, like, that's sort of a lot of the sort of weird Rick and Morty-ish stuff that kind of came into play is like offbeat things like you have a building, but it's alive. And, and the people are like, what do you mean your buildings aren't alive? I also, like I said, I like the cast. There was the woman I don't know her name. She played like the warrior queen lady with the
yeah.
the staff. She was, I don't know who she was, but she was really, really good. Yeah.
What is her name? Oh my God. Because she kicks ass, that girl. But yeah, she does a lot of Katie O'Brien. That is her name.
Okay.
She was in Black Lightning, which is Westworld. She had a small role in The Mandalorian, and apparently she was in Z Nation, which I know nothing about.
Z Nation is about zombies.
Aha.
It's like a low rent Walking Dead.
Aha.
I thought it was a documentary about Generation Z. Oh, so it is actually about zombies. Oh, hurtful. Gen X rules.
That's it. You're going to get canceled.
Cancel me. I don't give a shit. Look, I'm wearing a Bowie t-shirt, unironically. I've got with a rip in it. I mean, show it's vintage. I mean, Jesus. You know, how old do I need to pretend to be? Okay, my turn?
Yes, sir.
All right, what did I like about it? Well, most of the main cast I thought were great as usual. Michelle Pfeiffer just is absolutely amazing in everything she does. The fact there is way more of her than Evangeline Lilly is great.
There was a ton of her. That surprised me. But
yeah. Honestly, I liked how they tackled MODOK, because MODOK was always going to be a figure of fun. And so to have MODOK in and have a logical sort of like attachment to the first movie in Corey Stoll, even though it had been leaked, which really sucked because they'd released stills with his fucking face in it.
Yeah.
That would have been a nice spoiler to have avoided. But I actually kind of liked the way it worked. Like I said, I thought the first act zipped along really nicely. That opening was really quite fun. The end act was also very, very nice and just popped along. I thought the Quantum Realm looked really good, way better than I thought it would. And honestly, Jonathan Majors, if he is. I mean, he's obviously not quite a huge star and household name quite yet, even though he's done a lot of good stuff. But man's amazing, such a great actor. He's obviously in Creed 3 coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously saw a lot more of him in the post-credit scene, or the first post-credit scene. He was great in Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he is just going to be. It's a shame. Honestly, it's a shame he's playing Kang, which is a character that has a shortish shelf life in that we know it goes to maybe 2025, 26, because he could have been around a lot longer. If he was playing a hero, he could have done the 10, 12 years that or longer, you know, that we got from the original sort of like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, etc., etc. I think he's brilliant. So he was absolutely the high point of it for me, and is pretty much in every film he's in.
Do you know how old he is? Because that is a great point that he could have been a 10-year contract guy, but I don't know how old he is. If he would, he looks young. Come on, internet.
All right, you talk amongst yourselves, and I'll Google it.
Too late. 33.
Well, there you go. He could, yeah, and he's got such a sense of humor about him as well. I'm hoping we see a Kang with a real sort of like sense of humor, given that post-credit scene again. So that's my thoughts, Ray.
Yeah, like you, I was really impressed with some of the performances. I think this had the two best acting performances in any of the Ant-Man movies, and two of the best in any of the MCU movies. We'll talk about who specifically later, but you pretty much mentioned it. The Quantum Realm was really impressive. I love the variety of aliens. The guy obsessed with holes was funny. And of course the broccoli guy.
The one with the guy with the lamp for a head.
Yeah.
That was he looked like he reminded me of a version of the Destroyer from the original Thor movie.
Yes, yeah, he was like Destroyer Junior or something.
Yeah, stripped down Destroyer.
Comic book saga myself, but okay.
That could work too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I have a lot more to complain about. It's a lot.
I would actually also bring up Kath. Oh God, what's her name? The woman who plays Cassie.
Oh, Catherine Newton. No, you're right.
Yeah.
She was, the camera loves her. I mean,
Somebody
has
at Marvel
great
loves
presence. Yeah, no, I think she'll be around for a while. Hopefully, if they
I
do
see her like what you said about Jonathan Majors, I think applies to her. But the two of them are going to have very different careers. Like I see him as having like a much more serious actory career, whereas she's going to be more of like a Reese Witherspoon, Sandra Bullock kind of, always very likable, doing rom-coms and fun movies and
I can see that for her. But do you think? I mean, because he's built like a brick house. Do you don't think he's going to be like a major action guy if Hollywood wants him that way?
I think he could do anything he wants. He could do action because of his physique. He could do drama because of his pure acting talent. But I also think he could be incredibly funny. I think there is something about him that shows off a comic side that hints at such a really amazing comic side. That I think he can literally be anything he wants to be, which is great, which is what you need.
When he does a comedy, it's going to be one of those situations like when De Niro first did a comedy, and people were like, "He can do comedy? Oh, he can." Like it will be sort of an unexpected because he'll do like these serious movies.
Yeah,
I think he just did one about the Air Force pilots in World War II and
Devotion.
Yeah.
So. See, I was thinking more like he could be a much better version of The Rock in terms of acting and the comedy. Maybe physique was a tough call. So, I mean, flip a coin there. But I don't know. That's how I see him. Maybe, who knows? The world is his oyster right now, and I hope he keeps
shucking away.
Yeah, even better. Now let's get all complainy and annoyed gamery and talk about what we did not like about the movie.
Move over, ladies. It's my time to shine.
Here we go.
All right. Well, let's first of all, let's talk about that middle act. The middle act is bloated as so much exposition, so much, because they split up the team. A pointless cameo from Bill Murray. His character was absolutely useless and a waste. The whole, oh, yes, I banged your wife, Hank. I mean, really didn't need that. It just slowed everything down and added a bunch of, like I said, bloated exposition. We know what the freaking quantum realm is. We know who Kang is, or it could have just been a lot more snappy, a lot tighter. Let's talk about Hope Van Dyne. I honestly hoped that they'd kill her off. Evangeline Lilly has resting bitch face the entire movie, and she has for every freaking movie she's ever done. I don't think she's a great actress. I don't think she's certainly good enough to carry off the Wasp character. I hope the kid actually becomes the new Wasp, the daughter, as opposed to Ant Lady or Ant non-binary or whatever she wants to call herself. But I think if she was the new Wasp, that would be great. Because I think every time, I mean, you see zero chemistry between Rudd and Evangeline Lilly. You see zero charisma from Evangeline Lilly. Cassie Lang steals the scenes that she's in, especially the MODOK one at the end. I mean, totally silly and everything, but she carries it off. And you're right. It's the rom-com, the comedy chops of the actress. So yeah, I have issues with that. No Michael Pena.
Or the
automatic foul.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire ex-con crew. But no Michael Pena really sucked. Randall Park barely in it.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously, it felt to me like the Swiss Family Robinson, but it was the Swiss Family Robinson in the Quantum Zone. Oh, look, everybody's shipwrecked down here and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, It just felt so contrived across the board. Oh, Cassie, who is her dad's a really clever thief and everything, but not super genius, but she managed to figure out a way to pull everybody at the fucking quantum zone. I do have a hatred of the plot device, kid does something stupid. And I think any writer who puts that in, and any director who directs it, and any producer who okays it, needs to be locked in a room with a bunch of 5-year-olds on Adderall for a week.
Wow.
Because I really have issues with that. I mean, it's just such a contrived plot point, and I think it did the actress a huge disservice. Like I said, my main issue is just that middle section. It really slowed everything down. The movie was fun, bumping along. There'd been some bits of good action initially when you get in the quantum zone, and then it just turned into this turgid cut back and forth, and and it really just sucked the life out of it for me.
Confession, I was, there were a few moments in the second act where I was almost dozing off. So I'm absolutely with you on that one. There are 3 things in particular that I didn't like about the movie. As cool as the quantum realm was, I really liked how the first 2 used San Francisco as a setting. And, so much of Marvel from the comics and in the movies is so New York centric that I liked having San Francisco as a smaller town, smaller city, and a unique setting. The second thing I didn't like, which also you touched on, is that they didn't use the secondary characters from the first 2 movies. I thought Judy Greer was great. Bobby Cannavale and Randall Park were great, but especially the ex-con guys. I love those Michael Pena stories. I love T.I. and David Dalmatian, or whatever that guy's name is. He's wonderful too, talking about Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga?
You're right. Great. I mean, and they're the emotional, sort of like the emotional core of the movie, because they're the guys who help get things done in each movie. I mean, it goes from pulling the heist.
But I guess that begs the question: where would you guys have put them in this movie? Would you have had them in the room when everybody gets sucked into the quantum realm? And
that is a fair point.
No, that's a very valid point. I think honestly, if you'd have trimmed down a lot of the bloat in the second act, you could have found time for a scene or 2 with them in the first act, because I mean they're just totally not acknowledged whatsoever. Or even when everybody's back in San Francisco. I mean, it's all that opening montage it's fun. It's like, Hope Van Dyne does this, and I wrote the book, and blah-de-blue. And it's like, where are these guys that helped? I mean, wouldn't it be perhaps it'd been great if it was Michael Pena saying that about, my friend Scott, and he did this, and then his girlfriend was doing this, and blah, 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 blah. That might have actually been such a great way into it. Obviously, you can't take the whole gang down to the quantum realm, but I really don't think that they needed to have everybody down in the quantum realm. And obviously, Scott's love for his daughter is, a very bonding thing in the movie 3 and movie 1. You don't really see it as much in the second movie.
Right.
But yeah, there's no Judy Greer, no Bobby Cannavale. And I think the movie is just poorer for it. And I honestly think this is the issue I have with every Marvel movie post Endgame. It's not as good as Endgame. Endgame and Infinity War, 2 of the best Marvel movies that really ramped everything up. And now it feels that every movie watch has to hit that level. And it's not, and I mean level of spectacle. And it doesn't have to. The beauty of how the Avengers movies are the pinnacle of each cycle of the Marvel movies, which means the other movies, the Black Panthers, the Guardians, Ant-Man's, they should be smaller, self-contained. They should be, this is our universe. We don't need all this bleed over. I mean, Thor Ragnarok worked because they took Hulk and they took Thor and they took him off to an alien thing, and it worked. because we didn't have Jane Foster and a lot of this, this other stuff that worked in that way. And there was no Thanos.
Right.
Obviously, we had the post-credit scene at the very end, but that was that was it. I mean, that's the way it felt. This just felt like another gateway movie to welcome to Phase 5. This is what we're doing. So Kang's going to be a version of Kang's going to be the bad guy in most of the movies moving forward now. It just felt so unnecessary, and we've got 2 more Marvel movies this year in the Marvels, which has moved to November, and Guardians 3 in May.
Yeah.
And I really hope that they are within their own bubble, because
this
fatigue is setting in.
As you said about the second act, there was so much exposition, and I think that permeated the movie in general. I understand that this is the first movie in Phase 5, but it seemed so explainer-y. And it took away from my last point, which is it was just so tonally different from the first 2 movies and what I enjoyed about them, that I liked that the first 2 were heist movies, almost kind of like a MCU Ocean's 11, even though there were like 6 of them or 7 of them or whatever. And also, as I said about using San Francisco as a setting and moving it to the quantum realm for, what was it, like 80% of the movie about that? Yeah. I mean, you needed to do that. I understand, but it just felt so different from the first 2 that it kind of pulled me out of it. And I don't know.
One of the things I did think of yesterday when I was thinking about doing this video and all this stuff, is I wondered if maybe this movie wouldn't have worked better, not as an Ant-Man movie, but as a movie about somebody else, with Ant-Man and his gang in supporting roles, the way Doctor Strange was in a support role for the 3rd Spider-Man movie. Because like you said, it did have a very different feel. Now, I don't know which of the characters you could have sucked into the quantum realm that would have made it better. The first one I thought of was Iron Man, but obviously that's out of the question. And
Hulk.
Thor doesn't work, and I don't think Doctor Strange would have been
Smart Hulk.
Aha.
Smart Hulk might have might have really worked there. You'd have certainly brought a different dynamic to everything. I just feel it's as I think we you've both said, it feels this is the most Ant-Man movie of the trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, to me, and this kind of segues into our next point where we're talking about standout performances. This wasn't even an Ant-Man movie to me. Ant-Man almost felt like a secondary character. Like, to me, what really stood out was Janet and Kang, and it felt more like their story overall than Scott Lang's story.
Maybe that's what they should have done then, is had Smart Hulk, Hank Pym, Janet be the ones that go to the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have it not be Paul Rudd Ant-Man, but have it be the original Ant-Man and the original Wasp.
Yeah. No Ant-Man, no Wasp, no Cassie Lang. That would have been a totally different movie. I think unfortunately they still have the rights issue with Paramount, which means we still won't get a Hulk movie. But yeah, I mean, look, they've the movie's on track to make its money, and at the end of the day, it's not Avatar, so that's always good.
Yeah.
But I mean, are you guys feeling the same Marvel fatigue that I am?
Me, not yet. I mean, no. I appreciate that we do have a ton of choices, and I think about growing up, how you remember how we would have to stay up at a certain time, or we could only watch a certain thing if we went to the video store to rent it. I love that we have so many choices. Yeah, some of them are better than others, but I appreciate all that we do have.
Oh, look, look, we're in a much better place. I mean, if you think about it, when we were kids, all we had was we had Bill Bixby as the Incredible Hulk, and then the versions of Daredevil and Thor that came into that particular one. We had Mark something or other as Spider-Man. in that 1978 series that was really quite atrocious.
Oh, Nicholas Hammond.
Nicholas Hammond. That's right,
Yes.
Nicholas Hammond. Sorry. Then what else did we have? We had the
Dolph Lundgren
as the Punisher. We had the Captain America movie. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot better
Roger Corman's
now.
Fantastic Four.
Roger Corman's Fantastic Four. So yeah, we are in a hugely better place, and we have been since, let's face it, since Blade came along. I mean, the first Blade movie was the one that everybody says, oh, it was X-Men, but no, Blade for me it was the one that really showed us that we could actually have these movies. We've got these choices, but they are blurring. The movies are blurring now. Wakanda Forever again suffered from this bloat, and I think it's a case of Kevin Feige has put his trust obviously in his directors, which is great, but he hasn't said no to them. This is why Taika Waititi, Peyton Reed, they just are allowed to do this bloat, go off and have their own thing, and it's not at the benefit of the character or the brand. I mean, Love and Thunder was one of the most disappointing Marvel movies I've watched. Wakanda Forever gets a pass because they lost
that situation. Yeah,
they lost their soul. But Ant-Man and Quantumania is another one where it just feels like, oh, Peyton, well, you have to do this, this, and this, but other than that, just go nuts in this,
right.
this quantum sandbox that we're building for you, and it needs to be trimmed. It needs to be tighter. I mean, we're talking about comic book movies. We're talking about, I'd rather have read that in a graphic novel collection, a compilation, than actually, to be honest, we watched it. It's not one that I think I want to watch again. I mean, it's the same with Wakanda Forever. When it dropped on Disney Plus, I started watching it. I genuinely fell asleep. I've not been able to rewatch, with the exception, I think, of no, there's not one of the Marvel Phase 4 movies that I have been able to rewatch more than once. Whereas Avengers, Civil War, Winter Soldier, and Infinity War, Endgame, OG Black Panther, and Guardians, OG Guardians. Those are the movies that I can watch again and again and again and really enjoy. But nothing, honestly, since the end of Infinity War has really grabbed me. And if I include Spider-Man No Way Home, even though it was great.
That one is, I think, aged poorly and not as rewatchable, except for when there's 3 Spider-Men on screen. But Nate brought up an interesting point. He says, I can see the explainery in an attempt to catch less intelligent moviegoers afloat. In the theater I was in, the people behind me were loud, terrible moviegoers who didn't watch Loki, and obviously no I wouldn't say less intelligent necessarily, as not everyone watches everything, and it's fair because there's a ton of Marvel content. So maybe if you didn't watch Loki, maybe this concept of the multiverse would seem weird to you, and Kang wouldn't have the impact that it had on you. But if
you watch Spider-Man or watch Doctor Strange, I mean, the odds are if you go and see Ant-Man, you'll have watched Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. And my wife, who really doesn't give 2 shits about this sort of stuff, she
enjoyed this movie. Yeah,
she enjoyed it, but she agreed with me on the whole bloaty. I mean, it's just some of the critiques have been like flat out abusive. But she agreed with me that it wasn't as perhaps funny as as humorous, and didn't really clip along. The pacing on the first 2 was beautiful, and the pacing has just been off on all the Marvel movies post-pandemic.
Carlos says, I can't rewatch Wakanda Forever without getting a little upset on how they made the people of color fight themselves. Well, that's just real life, my friend.
but that's what we said. That's what we said in our review.
Yes.
I mean, it does feel a little bit, a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to trust in Ryan Coogler, who wrote the story and directed this, directed the movie, and it was his choice to make the Atlanteans something different. Because in the books they are white, possibly Asian. Namor in particular has. He's kind of, to me, he kind of looks more of a sort of Eurasian character. But yeah, what they've done is great. There's more diversity on the screen for us to see. But does it really have to be the brown people against the black people while the white people watch them?
Again, that's real life, my friends.
As the token white person in this group.
Now, Paul, let's talk about.
Well, you look really suntan, mate. I mean, look at me.
Well, you're both in Southern California, so you should both be tan. But
I don't go out.
You have an excuse, Marcus. Yes.
Outside. I'm British. We don't do that.
Now, Paul, let's talk about the acting performances that stood out for you in this movie.
Right. Well, I mentioned Catherine Newton.
Yes.
And the only thing I would add to what I said is that I was a little worried with her because this is sort of her first really huge movie.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, she did the Pikachu movie, but like this is like her first huge movie, and she's in scenes with Michael Douglas, Paul Rudd,
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah. I could see somebody being overwhelmed by that. I didn't think that would happen to her, and I'm glad it didn't, but she more than held her own, I think, in that.
Absolutely.
I thought most of the cast were as good as they usually. I mean, Michael Douglas is always rock solid. Michelle Pfeiffer is I think underappreciated in some respects because she's always rock solid. Paul Rudd, of course. We mentioned Jonathan Majors. The acting. I mean, that's one thing I think I've said before. I probably will say again on these videos is Marvel's casting is really, really good. They always find really good people to play these roles. And
they're running out of actors, though. They're running out of actors.
well, they have new ones. Marcus brought up earlier in the video about Cassie being Ant-Man, the next Ant-Man or the next Wasp, but in the comics, she goes the other way and becomes Big, and her superhero name is Stature. I don't know if they're going to go that way with her in the MCU, but when she was in Young Avengers, she was their giant girl / woman. So I would love to see Stature on the big screen. So
I just realized I've seen her in 4 movies. She was great in Cock Blockers.
Yeah,
she was really funny and more than held her own in Freaky, which was the horror take on Freaky Friday.
Oh, yeah.
She was the girl who got the soul of the serial killer body swapped with Vince Vaughn. And I thought that she was really good in that.
Oh.
And she was in Detective Pikachu. I mean, she's been in Little Women, Paranormal Activity 4. I missed that one, unfortunately. But I mean, she's got a big future in front of her. I hope they give her, they give her a run. I mean, obviously, yes, we're lining up for Young Avengers because we've got the Hulk son, we've got
Hawkeye,
the new Hawkeye,
Ms. Marvel,
Scarlet Witch's kids, allegedly. So Tommy, So,
Young Avengers
Morales.
Young Avengers needs to be a TV show that I can avoid. Nothing makes me feel old like Young Avengers.
So it's interesting when Marcus was talking about Marvel fatigue. I think Feige in an interview said they're going to cut back on the number of TV shows that they do because he wants to focus on quality. But I think the quality of the TV shows is kind of taking away from the movies because some of them are so good that I have more fun with the TV series than most of the recent movies, actually.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah, and the TV shows suffer from the same problem, bloat, where it's like they're 2 episodes too long, and we all want more. We all want this, that, and the other. But I'd sacrifice 2 episodes out of a 10 episode season, take it down to 8, so that I can have, 8 brilliant hour-long or 45-minute long episodes. That would be absolutely perfect for me. Every single show that they have dropped, and I include really good ones like Loki, like Miss Marvel, even going back to WandaVision, they had that mid-season bloat, and I understand why they want people to justify paying their whatever it is for Disney Plus. I can't even remember how much it is because I've been paying for it for so long. But yeah, they just really gotta. I think they could just cut it back, make them more. I'd be happy with 8 episodes. Hell, certain shows like Moon Knight, I'd be happy with no episodes. But I mean, Secret Invasion is coming up. That should be super cool, as should Armor Wars. 2 really good Well, Armor Wars was great. Secret Invasion, the books.
Armor Wars is now a movie.
It's now a movie?
Yeah.
I thought it was still a series.
I thought it was a series too.
I believe they've changed it now, and they said it's going to be a movie. I don't know. They didn't say why.
Interesting.
They just said,
because Cheadle doesn't want to do TV. He's like,
Cheadle's been doing. Yeah, he's been doing TV. He did the Black Monday for Showtime, and he was excellent in that. That was a great show.
Well, Nate says quality in the TV shows could be made up with the writing. This is true, but I think the writers, the executives, have more pull than the writers, so they want X amount of episodes to spread it out over X amount of time so that they can draw in subscribers. I mean, but I personally don't have a problem with the TV shows. I think they've been getting better and better. And I like Moon Knight, unlike Marcus. I like that there's a psychotic superhero.
He's not psychotic enough. I'm sorry, he's not psychotic enough. I mean, I need a little, if you're gonna go psychotic, revel in it. Just fucking revel in it. And I just felt a little, it felt too restrained. Give us psychotic. Give it to Sam Raimi and give us psychotic. Ooh. You're right, Armor Wars is a movie.
Wow.
And it's apparently going to tie into the events of Secret Invasion, because obviously we see Don Cheadle in Secret Invasion. But yeah, just make it less is more. Less is more. Quality over quantity. And has anybody else noticed that all the movies, and it's not like from mid Phase 4 on, have stopped being a Marvel production and now a Kevin Feige production?
I did not notice that. When did that start?
It's relatively new as far as I've never really noticed it up until sort of like the last 4 or 5 movies, but it's a Kevin Feige production now. Like, he's become so powerful that he's almost usurping Disney, the Marvel brand, and it is him. Yeah. All right, so where are we now? What are we doing now?
We're going to talk about the mid-credit scene and the post-credit scene. Paul, what did you make of this kanginess and the one at the end? I'll let you talk about that one and who's in it. Exactly.
Wait, so there was the one with all the Kangs.
Yes.
Which again reminded me of Rick and Morty, because it reminded me of the Citadel of Ricks. That was very entertaining. It was a little weird to see the one guy with the Egyptian headpiece, though.
Immortus
or Ramatut.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was a regular gangbang.
Yeah. How long have you been sitting on that one?
About 4 minutes.
Yeah. That was interesting. And again, I think, as with a lot of this movie, I think that's going to pay off later. It's very much a setting up other things. Although it was interesting that there didn't seem to be anybody in that group, at least that we saw, that was a direct reference to any of the other worlds that we saw, although I don't really know how there could be. But then,
Right.
like, there wasn't like an animated Kang or a paint Kang or, Noir Kang or whatever. But
Well, it's interesting. The Kang that we saw in Ant-Man and in Quantumania is the Kang the Conqueror from the comic books.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the outfit, he had the face
blue.
shield
Mhm.
with and he had the tracks down his face. So, which Kang is going to be the one Kang to rule them all in Dynasty?
Well, tune in, fellas. Oh,
Well, we
Carlos
don't
said he
know.
saw.
I mean,
a
the thing is,
Skrull
we
Kang.
don't know that the Kang in this movie was the Kang from this universe, because they said that he had been banished by them, which I
Right.
assume meant the Council of Kangs. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's from our dimension.
Right.
There still could be a Kang in our dimension, and he could have that outfit and the blue face shield, or a variation on it. So
Interesting. And how about the post-credit scene, Paul? Why don't you describe it?
I can't remember it.
It was the Loki one.
Oh, that one didn't make any sense to me, because I mean, it kind of did, but like it's one of those things again where I feel like when I see Loki season 2, I'm gonna go, oh, that's what that meant. Okay. I mean, they sort of touched upon that. I mean, obviously he was in, well, a version of him was in.
Right. Right. But the character in that scene in particular, Mr. Timely, is from the comics, so that might be kind of obscure.
Yeah.
But I liked the Council of Kang things. Like Kang, I thought was one of the characters that I always thought was too weird in comics to ever be in a movie. But now I got two of them.
MODOK.
Yeah, no, that was the other one. I'm like, I'm never gonna see MODOK in a movie. That's too fucking weird. But now I got both of them. It was great.
Yeah.
So Paul is saying the quantum realm not only houses time vortexes, but could also be gateways to multiverses. Is that what you're saying? I don't know.
I mean, that's certainly a possibility. It's also possible that the Kangs have some kind of device in the Citadel of Kangs, for lack of a better, I don't know what else to call it, where they can tap into. I mean, obviously they can tap into any version of the multiverse. So maybe the quantum realm as it is only exists in our universe, or our universe is one of the few that has them. Because when you exile somebody, you're not trying to kill them. They wanted to kill him, they would have just killed him. Okay. So they want to send him to a realm where he can live. He just can't escape.
Okay, this is getting way too heady for me.
Yeah.
But
thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Is it going to turn out like that Jet Li movie, The One, where every time you kill a Kang, the rest of the Kangs get more powerful, and until the end, in the very end, there's only going to be one Kang.
It's going to be Kang Highlander, so they just all keep killing each other until there's
Kangland.
Yeah. I liked the mid-credit scene a lot because Kang is so weird, and I liked seeing Immortus and Ramatut and all the different versions of Kang. Carlos did bring up this point. Why were they hooting like apes when they were in the Kang arena? I don't know. That didn't make sense to me either.
I'm guessing some were Republicans.
I didn't like the post-credit scene as much because it just seemed too cheeky and cute. Like might as well just have said, "Watch Loki coming soon on Disney Plus." Nate says, by definition, wouldn't a quantum realm be existent across all dimensions? I cannot answer that because I am not smart enough to figure that out.
I can. I would say that yes, but that there is a quantum realm in every dimension, but that doesn't mean that it is inhabitable.
Oh.
And since, as I said, they didn't want to kill Kang, they wanted to exile him.
Right. Interesting.
It's like how in every multiverse, Florida may not be inhabitable.
Oh, if only that were true in our. No, just kidding, Floridians.
So Yeah, this show took a turn for the serious with Paul Semel as Professor Proton.
Marcus, what did you think of the post-credit, mid-credit scenes?
Mid-credit scene. I felt it wasn't needed. I don't need to see 150 Kangs of all shapes and sizes. Yeah, especially as was said, was it Carlos said, some of them hooting and just going, because I mean, if they're all Kangs, they should all have a base level of smartness, I guess. But I suppose, multiverses. I mean, I'm sure there's a multiverse where there's a version of Marcus where he is smart.
You're plenty smart, my friend.
So yeah, it's like, oh, Kang's gone. I would rather have seen Kang's gone. I said, oh, so how are they going to get to the Kang dynasty then? That to me would have been the bigger, like leaving the theater going, hang on, we have this movie coming in 2025. It's an Avengers movie. We know Kang is the big bad, but they just killed him. Which one was he? Was he,
or would it have been better to not have that scene and then also not tell us that the Avengers movie is called the Kang Dynasty, so that you think he's dead, but then somehow he comes back?
But wasn't that like early last year when they revealed the title?
Right, but that's my point.
Yeah.
Like, what if they had said, "Oh, and there's going to be these 2 Avengers movies," and we're not.
Yeah, it could have been it's like, here's Avengers 5 and here's Avengers 6.
Yeah,
and that's it. And we're not announcing it until way later. And then when they say Avengers Secret Wars, and by the way, the original Secret Wars book is one of my favorites. I remember I was a kid. As a kid, I collected that every week without fail in the UK, and it was really hard to get hold of because we didn't have a comic book store. They were sold in newsagents, but it was an absolute crapshoot as to what comics would actually be in the pile that was sent from the distributors. Because back in the UK, especially in Wales in the 80s, it's fucking stupid as hell. So, I mean, I love that whole the Beyonder thing. How we have Venom introduced.
That's right.
And we have Ben Grimm being able to go human for the first time. We have there's just so many good things. Dr. Doom obviously takes some of the Beyonder's power. I mean, is the Beyonder in that? I'm all kinds of excited about that one, and I hope they don't fuck it up by making Kang the Beyonder, because that would just be really terrible. Really annoying. But yeah, I could have lived without knowing that. I mean, everybody says everybody knows that Kang was the big bad, but it really would have thrown us all for a loop. And I understand if they'd have just said, "Oh, Kang's dead. There's the movie," and literally, yes, it could have been something else from Loki.
Right.
Like,
but I mean,
it could have been Tom Hiddleston going, "Hello, I'm Loki." It's coming out in 3 weeks.
Tiller F30 says, "Love the show. Keep up the great work." Well, I thank you. That is
many thanks to you, Tiller.
Very F30. Nice of you to say, and we appreciate that very much. We appreciate you watching.
We have Ant fan.
Yes. Do we have an Ant fan though?
Is it a fan Kang?
Oh yeah, we didn't touch upon that about what happens with the ants.
The futuristic super smart. I mean, that was actually a fun touch. You knew, but as soon as you saw them as the plot point midway through the movie, you knew they were going to turn up to save the day, and I think it was kind of cool. But yes, again, a plot contrivance, and that's the thing. Just like Riri Williams in Wakanda Forever was a plot contrivance that we could have done without. I think it could have been done without the ants. To be honest with you, I know for an Ant-Man movie, but why couldn't have the rebellion just have won with
the alien?
The alien, the addition of Ant-Man and Wasp and Stretch or whatever the daughter is going to be called, and
Stature.
yeah. I mean, and that's just that MacGuffin has become so telegraphed in Marvel movies. It's quite sad.
I mean, I liked how they looked visually, and that scene where they were on top of, this is totally spoilery, by the way, when they were on top of Kang's energy bubble and just closing it. Like, I love when they do claustrophobia well in movies and television. It made me think of the Battle of the Bastards in Game of Thrones, how when they were just being enclosed. And yeah, I really felt the claustrophobia there. Not that I'm empathizing with Kang, because he's bad and you're not supposed to like him. So
yes, he's a wankanger.
Oh, a Kanger. That's a great one. Now, we talked a bit about the background of the quantum realm and how it gave the movie a different feel. Like, it almost felt more Star Wars-ish to me, with like the Guardians of the Galaxy color palette. So I don't know. What did you think of the tone visually? And this is out of left field, so they are not prepared for this question.
I mean, it was cool. It did sort of remind me of some things we've seen in Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And of course, Guardians of, I mean, it obviously made me think a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy, the scenes where they're like in different places and, you know, there's all kinds of crazy aliens. And I always wonder what George Lucas thinks when he sees stuff like that, because he's got to be like, yeah, that's me. But yeah, I thought that was there was some really fun stuff in there. Yeah, Mos Eisley, yeah.
Exactly, Nate. Yeah, that's very much so.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun seeing. I mean, the broccoli guy was funny, but I'm always more interested in like the people that look like they're actual plausible aliens, as opposed to like
vegetables.
Here's a guy with a fish for a head, or here's a like
this man's a slice of cheese.
Right, exactly. You know, I remember watching Star Wars and being like, why is Satan sitting in a bar?
Right.
Because that was left over from the Hammer horror props box that was sitting around Elstree.
Yeah.
So apparently David Dalmatian, I'm going to keep calling him that.
Was it Delamanian?
Yeah, there's a C and an H in there. Okay. But I think he voiced the Jello guy that was obsessed with holes.
Oh,
so you mean the Kool-Aid guy?
Yeah,
I mean, it was literally the Kool-Aid guy, because it's like, you drank my ooze.
That's right.
But he had to drink the Kool-Aid to actually understand what was going on.
But he wasn't breaking down walls, going, "Oh yeah," it's like jumping into rooms. The other thing I noticed was the humor didn't hit as well for me as the first two. I think they had a different writer, if I believe, even though Peyton Reed directed all three.
Yeah.
The writer was different for this one. There was a device that he used where it seemed like he was making holy shit jokes because they couldn't think of anything better to write. Like when he goes, "Holy shit, that guy looks like broccoli." Like I laughed at it not because of how funny it was, but because of how stupid a line that was, especially from that character. Did you find, how did you feel about the humor?
It definitely wasn't as, you're right, it wasn't as funny as the other ones. I don't remember disliking the humor.
Yeah, I'm not to say I disliked it.
There was sort of a redundancy in jokes of like them getting cut off. You know,
right.
like I thought that was interesting. Although I also thought it was kind of weird towards the end when like Paul Rudd is like walking down the street and having good, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Did I screw this up?" And like everything got really serious. And
I liked that. I liked that part.
It was a weird moment because like you usually don't see either Paul Rudd or that character being so serious, and all of a sudden he was just like, what have I done? Like, you know, it was like that realization that he may have like screwed something,
made things worse instead of better. Yeah.
Which I think he did, to be honest.
Yes. Carlos says that writer is supposed to do Kang Dynasty.
Oh, that's worrying. So the interesting thing about they had a majority of different writers between 1 and 2. One was Edgar Wright, Joe Cornish, Adam McKay, and Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd was a writer on the first one. And then looking at the second one, Chris McKenna, Eric Summers, Andrew Barrer, Gabriel Ferrari, and Paul Rudd again. He was in there maybe punching up the comedy. And then all you had is Jeff Loveness, who didn't work on either of the first two, and no Paul Rudd.
Right.
So that's quite interesting. And yeah, I mean, I think it's probably it's my third favorite Ant-Man movie.
Same, easily.
I love that. The first one was the best. Second one had a lot of good things going about it. But this one, unfortunately, this one comes third, which is a shame because it's still fun in a lot of places, but it just it didn't do what it felt it needed to do. It needed to be an Ant-Man story first and foremost.
Right.
We don't need to set up the big bad every single fucking time.
When did they start setting up Thanos? Like because they teased it, but they didn't show him on. I forget which movie that was. If anyone out there knows, please let us know.
Well, it wasn't Iron Man. Wasn't in Iron Man 2. Thor.
I thought he was in like a post-credit scene before the first Avengers.
He may have been. I think it was after the first time they revealed the Tesseract. Because or did Thor 2 come after? Did Dark World come after Avengers?
No.
The internet says Thanos first appeared in the post-credit scene of the first Avengers movie.
Oh, there you go. That makes sense.
Aha, that does make sense. Although Carlos says it was the second one. I don't. That might be the first one with Brolin.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, he
Brolin
didn't
was probably on the cast. Yeah,
he wasn't him in the first time.
That's right, because the first time we see, I think, Thanos at the end of Avengers is when he's got full on grape testicle chin, and they did dial that back just a little.
Yes, because I think the nutsack chin gets you an R rating automatically.
Well, it just looked ridiculous. I mean, it's right up there with Men in Black 2's. He's a Ballchinian.
Oh yeah.
David Ballchinian, is that his name?
David Ballchinian of the Stanford Ballchinians.
All right, you guys just being rude now. He's a great actor.
No, he is. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
I loved him in Suicide Squad.
Oh, he was great in Suicide Squad. Yeah.
He was fantastic as Othello.
I didn't see that
when they did Shakespeare in the Park.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When did you see that?
About 5 years ago.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Paul Semel bringing culture to this this show since 2023.
David Ballchinian.
David,
Sir David Ballchinian.
I saw.
He can't be a sir. He's not a British subject.
I saw Captain Picard's one-man Christmas Carol, and I had never seen a one-man show before. I'm like, how does this work? Does he do like hand puppets? Like, hey, Tiny Tim, it's like, what's going on there? But that was fantastic. Like,
yes, Captain Picard's going. An American. I mean, this. Hey, Tiny Tim, I'm Ebenezer Scrooge.
Engage.
Set your phasers to scary. Oh, so now I've got visions of Will Ferrell as a horrible Ebenezer Scrooge in Spirited that came out before Christmas with Ryan Reynolds.
I didn't watch that.
I love Will Ferrell. He's great in an ensemble, but he just cannot do. You cannot cast him as Ebenezer Scrooge because he cannot do a British accent, and and therefore he did it as an American accent, and that was just a whole plot giveaway from the beginning. So I just spoiled it for you, but you'll thank me.
See, now I'm in my head. I'm writing a Star Trek A Christmas Carol. It's like, Set your phasers for fun. I'm gonna write this, and it's gonna be horrible.
Q bless us, everyone.
Yes. So,
all right, I think we've just driven off a cliff now.
Let us get back on the right track. And how do you guys feel about the first step in Marvel Phase 5? Marcus, do you feel strong about it now, or do you have concerns?
I suppose the phrase ambivalence comes to mind, and I think that's probably the most damning thing I can say, is that Phase 4 was and it does come back to this. I don't know whether it's Marvel fatigue. I look forward to the TV shows. I look forward to the movies, but I find none of them have left me. You know, I haven't left the theater or even turned off a TV after an episode and had that feeling of holy shit that I had at the end of Infinity Wars and Endgame. They felt like just they were right up there, and I think the Russo brothers did such an amazing job. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just I have hope for the Marvels, because there's a great cast in there. Guardians is signing off. This is right. This might have had a bit more gravitas if they had actually killed somebody in this movie, like not just Kang. I mean, maybe
Michael Douglas. Why not?
Well, Michael Douglas said he's open to doing an Ant-Man 4 as long as they kill him off in it. But I mean, there was again no real emotional payoff. No, I mean, we had that end scene or scene towards the end where it's like, oh my god, is he left? Are they out of the thing now? Are they left in the quantum zone because the portal's closed?
Right.
And then all of a sudden the kid goes on my Windows PC, and I've opened up portal to the quantum zone. There you go, and you can come home now.
Right.
It would have actually been very bittersweet and nice, along the lines of Captain America getting his dance with Agent Carter, to see them settle down in the quantum zone, and then maybe Cassie and Hank and Janet off doing their own thing. That would have been cool, especially with the whole time dilation thing. It could have really opened up some possibilities down the line. But yeah, everybody has to get out. Everybody has to. I think that's the other thing, is after Tony Stark's death and Captain America going back to the life he deserved, it's like they've given up on real emotional payoffs in the Marvel movies. It's all, not even the three Spider-Man saying goodbye to each other, while it was cool, just didn't feel, nothing's had that impact. Yeah, and I think it's down to the writing's not as good. And look, if you wanted a movie that should have had that level of impact, Wakanda Forever was one of those, and it just didn't have it. Right. Despite Angela Bassett being an absolute screen icon and killed it. Yeah. I hope she gets an Oscar for that, because she was the shining. She was definitely the shining part of that movie. But yeah, I mean, and it was, it's been strange with Black Widow coming after her movie coming after the character dying, right? And it just seems pointless in a lot of ways. And we've had this discussion before. When you're looking at prequels, or you're looking at anything where the ending down the line, that the character is going to come back or the character is going to live, it just pulls all the suspense out of it for me. And again, this one could have done with Ant-Man and Wasp being stuck in the quantum zone, trapped there, unable to get back. That would have been great.
Yeah, I have similar feelings to you, Marcus, and that I'm looking forward more to Guardians and Marvel's, way more than I was looking forward to this movie. And I kind of feel justified by my lack of interest in it. I mean, I was always going to see it in theaters because I'm too much of a nerd not to. But instead of, getting Phase 5, establishing it, this is where we're going, it felt more like, all right, let's get this over with and kick things off. you know?
Maybe if they'd have put Guardians in the Ant-Man release the release date, and Ant-Man later on, so we could have said goodbye to the Guardians, and then we could have started Phase 5. Because the trailer for Guardians, and I know we're gonna have to talk about that, the newest trailer at some point, but that hints at a lot of emotional things going on, that there are characters who won't get out of that alive. And we know it's James Gunn's last Marvel movie because he's off busy ruining Henry Cavill's career and sending him to make Warhammer fucking TV shows.
He is fixing all of Jeff Johns' mistakes in TV and movies.
Hey, if it wipes the Snyderverse from the face of this earth, I'll be happy.
Yes, please. Paul, how do you feel about
he
Phase
doesn't
5?
do anything with Harley Quinn, I'm okay.
Fair enough.
Leave Harley Quinn out of it.
I know you're a fan of Lady Gaga.
Which Harley Quinn though?
The cartoon.
The cartoon on HBO Max.
Yeah, so good.
That is great. Yeah. Katie Cuoco.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is actually really brilliant. I would love to see Marvel take that level of, take some of that edginess that DC has done with it's now cancelled Doom Patrol, it's now cancelled Titans, and hopefully not to be cancelled for a long time, Harley Quinn.
They tried with MODOK and it just felt more silly than anything else.
That's the problem. MODOK
he looks ridiculous. And
it was a one-note joke. And just didn't. They tried to make this Office mockumentary type thing, and I like Patton Oswalt, but he's not that funny. He can't carry a show.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt tonally. I didn't quite felt all over the place. Like, are you trying to be quirky, dopey? But
anyway, sorry, Paul, I interrupted you. Please go back and finish your thoughts.
I mean, okay. Well, to answer the question at hand, I'm more optimistic than you are, Marcus. I'm curious to see where things are going to go. Like I said earlier, I feel like this is going to be a very pivotal movie, but I still don't know where things are going in the rest of this. And I've said this to Raymond before, I feel like at some point all of these things are going to make a lot more sense. Like Eternals is going to make how it fits in with everything is going to make a lot more sense, and things like that. So I'm more optimistic than you are. I do agree that so far what we've seen movie wise in Phase 4 and now Phase 5 have not been as good as Phase 3. Although,
how do you top that? Yeah.
How do you top Endgame? I mean, Endgame to me is like one of the greatest action movies of all time, one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. I mean,
see, I think Infinity War is better. I just think they took the different characters and the different locations and it blended together so perfectly. Endgame also is wonderful, but it felt more disjointed to me than Infinity War. I was really impressed with.
I don't know.
Honestly, I think
it together.
When I watch them back to back.
So you think of it as one thing? Yeah.
The only way you can watch it, and that is then an epic superhero movie. Never mind the fucking Justice League Snyder cut. That is an example of how to pull strings from so many different parts of the universe, turn it into this really great tapestry of a story that's got more highs and lows than Paul Semel's underpants in the 90s. Yeah, I mean, look, they are those. If you view them together, they complement each other so well as well.
But that's the whole thing. Is like, how are you ever going to top that? And I think,
but you don't have to top that. You don't have to top it. You have to go back to telling the smaller stories.
I don't mean top it in terms of like being bigger and explodier and all that stuff. I mean just being as good as that.
Well, first of all, you need to hire the Russo brothers to do everything, because they're that fucking good and they get the source material. I mean, that was just evident from the opening 10 minutes of Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which is probably one of the best opening 10 minutes of a Marvel movie anyway. But they need to go back to telling the stories about the characters and slowly weave them and pull them in. And the Avengers needs to be the coalescing, the paying off. And if you have 2 movies back to back with the Avengers 6 months apart or whatever you want to do it, that's the way to do it. Avengers 1, payoff of what we'd seen before. Ultron. I mean, Age of Ultron is one of those ones that doesn't get the love it deserves, but it does a lot of stuff subtly well. That, as you said, with this one later down the line, there's a lot of callbacks in there, and things do work. And then everything just paid off in Infinity War and Endgame. But since then, it's either been Black Widow, where the story's already been told. It feels pointless. This movie should have come right after Iron Man 2, to be honest with you. So we really knew Natasha Romanoff and where she was coming from. It didn't need to feel like, we're setting up a sister for Thunderbolts. Eternals, whatever. Shang-Chi, need a better writer for the main character. I've said this time and time again. When the two female support leads, if you will, in his sister and his best friend, have better lines and more plot and character development than the lead, and it's such a disservice to a great actor, you got a problem. And then you look at what else has been, and it's just the same problem over and over. It doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be all encompassing. We don't need a whole huge quantum realm. We don't need Black people against brown people between the most powerful country on earth in Wakanda and the Undersea nation who that also in Talokan, which also has vibranium. We don't need the vibranium dick waving competition. Let's tell them, or those stories. I mean, this is why Miss Marvel worked so well for me. I mean, it's one girl, boom, her universe. She-Hulk touched on bits and bobs, but boom, her universe. I mean, the Netflix ones, Marvel, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones,
Iron Fist,
the other one.
I think you gave Marvel their subtitle for Black Panther 3, the vibranium dick waving competition. I think they should go with that.
But yeah, it's big is not always better. And it's like, pace it out. Don't try and give us orgasm after orgasm. Leave us with some blue balls.
Yeah, I wish there would focus more on story than setup or spectacle. Because when they were telling individual stories, I think that's when Marvel's at its best. Like you were saying with She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel, it doesn't have to always be about saving the world or,
I think that you are going to get that from Blade. I don't think you're going to get that from the Fantastic Four. I think that's going to be a big one. I'm not sure what you're going to get from the Marvels.
Well, Fantastic Four is so far off. I mean, there's no casting announcement. There's no release date. I mean, Fantastic Four might not even appear until after Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars.
No, it's before.
But Kang Dynasty is in 2. Yeah, Kang Dynasty's in 2 years.
See, this is an interesting question because in the comics, Kang is Franklin Richards. So how do they? Well, yeah, are they going to go that route or are they not?
No idea. I think Deadpool will also be small, relatively speaking.
You can't have Deadpool in the universe saving.
No, but I mean that's going to be the beauty of Deadpool is that we're going to get a Deadpool movie, and there's going to be quips about them up in the budget. So we've got Wolverine in there, great. The rumor mill is now saying that Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart are going to be involved because of the way it's set. I think we're just going in circles now, but I think less is more. They need to refine it, not necessarily cut the TV shows, but they just need to. If I go in to see a movie, I expect to see a start, a beginning, and an end. And if you want to put a post-credit scene in there, fine. But make the story all-encompassing. Make it, its own story in there.
Right.
With some, so the potential for other bits and bobs. Oh, that's kind of cool. It's, it's its own course in the meal.
Right. But even going on that, I think make the movie about the character that's in the title. Like, arguably, Ant-Man was the third lead in this movie, maybe fourth, depending on your perspective. We have a few great comments from the gallery. Carlos says, the Marvels might be pushing towards Skrull/Secret Invasion, which absolutely makes sense. That is a very good point. And Nate says, the bar was raised kind of high with Infinity Saga. How can they proceed? Yeah. Without dropping Barcelona a few notches. I just threw in a football comment for no reason. But it doesn't have to be, you don't necessarily have to go after the same bar. I mean, to me, a good story is a good story. It doesn't matter how big or small the scope is. So I will ask you guys one question to take us out. Why didn't Ant-Man just shrink and fly up Kang's butt and expand? It would have been a short movie.
Didn't they go into a reason for that?
They did, because the Thanos theory that became a meme, they talked about that because people kept bringing it up. Like, why didn't he just fly up Thanos's butt? And
right. It's kind of like the Eagles in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yes, it is exactly like
that.
Okay, so closing thoughts. We all feel Ant-Man. I'm like, I was entertained, but it was kind of middle of the road for me. Maybe a little below that.
It's Ant-Man. Ant-Man.
Yes, Ant-Man.
It could have been much better. It doesn't deserve the shitty reviews it's been getting. It's not that bad. It's just, it's fine.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, it's good. I
It's
agree with you. It's not. I understand people not liking it. I don't understand people hating it.
Yeah.
That is perfect. And I want to thank our excellent friend, Paul Semel, for visiting us. Please visit him at paulsemel.com for excellent stories about movies, TV, video games, books. We're going to have Paul on a bunch more times. We're going to talk about... That's really good, Marcus. Got the whole Kilroy thing going on. We got a bunch of Star Wars content coming out. We're going to be talking about our favorite Star Wars games, movies, TV shows, and more. Paul's going to get Marcus and I to read more. And I want to enlist Paul into helping me convince Marcus on why he should watch the Star Wars cartoons, especially No, that's Luke's line.
No.
So, Paul, I need your help. You're my only hope to get Marcus to watch Rebels. It's very important. Uh-oh.
Oh, you want him to watch Rebels? Okay.
Yes. Uh-oh. My lightsaber's too far. But I got this handy sword. Uh-oh. Paul's going to whip out his vibranium now.
And my axe.
So, guys, we want to know how you felt about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Please leave your thoughts on the comment. Please let us know how you feel about Phase 5. That's a great lamp. And let us know, do you think Ant-Man should have just flown up Kang's butt? Please like if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe. All our social media info is down below there. And
this is my reaction to the Kang's butt exploding. That is my reaction. Thank you very much.
And thank you guys for watching the BeeRPad. We will see you next time. Say goodbye, Paul. Goodbye, Paul.
Bye, Paul.